And one coincidence is just a coincidence. Two coincidences are a clue. And three coincidences are proof. So let's talk about the coincidences in the case of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, found dead in the trunk of singer David's abandoned Tesla. Her mother confirms that she had a boyfriend named David. David wrote an unreleased song titled Celeste. Both David and Celeste have a tattoo, same exact one, of the word shh on their right index fingers.
Y'all, stop everything you're doing right now, because this one's about to shake the industry to its core. In a twist nobody saw coming. The FBI has just confirmed what D4vd's loyal fans have been screaming for months. He was framed and the real killer. Oh, it's someone nobody expected. The truth is darker, deeper, and messier than anyone imagined. Now remember when D4vd was snatched up in that shocking late-night raid. His mugshot was everywhere, headlines blaring about the fall of a rising star. Social media exploded. Half the game turned their backs. Even his own circle started acting funny. But behind all that chaos, a sinister setup was unfolding and now the receipts are here. This ain't just about one artist's freedom. This is about jealousy, betrayal, and a hidden vendetta that's been bubbling for years. Fans are shocked, his family's in tears, and the streets are buzzing. What really happened that night? Who pulled the strings? And why did the world believe D4vd was guilty in the first place? Strap in, because what we're about to break down will have you questioning everything. This is more than a scandal, it's a trap, and D4vd was caught in it. But not anymore. It all started on a rainy night in Houston. The kind of night where everything feels heavy in the air, like something bad is about to happen. D4vd had just come back from a low-key studio session. Nothing major, just him and a couple of his day ones laying down ideas. He wasn't out causing drama. He wasn't in the clubs. He was focused. Fans knew he had been moving different, lately quiet, more serious, locked in. But then, out of nowhere, the streets lit up with sirens. Within minutes, feds swarmed the building he was staying in, kicked the door down like they were filming a movie, and dragged him out in cuffs. No warning, no explanation. Just chaos. Word spread faster than a viral tweet. Blogs, gossip pages, even mainstream media were all over it. Young R&B star D4vd arrested in connection to shocking homicide. People couldn't believe it. The internet exploded. Half the fans were screaming "Free D4vd," while the other half started treating him like he was already convicted. Even some of his industry peers went silent, deleting pics, unfollowing him, acting like they never knew him. But his real fans, they felt in their guts something wasn't right, and they were. Right that the charges were connected to a murder that happened just a few days prior. The victim, Cameron Sesso James, an up-and-coming songwriter who had been seen hanging around D4vd's circle just weeks earlier. Sources say Sizzo had been shopping beats to D4vd, and there was even talk about a collaboration. But something went real left. Rumors started flying about a heated argument between the two at a private party. Some said it was over a stolen hook. Others said Sizzo felt D4vd was ghosting him after promising to put him on. Whatever the reason, that argument was the match that lit the fire. And 3 days later, Sizzo was found dead in his car, shot twice in the chest, execution style. When D4vd's name was suddenly linked to the crime, everybody thought it made sense. The argument, the tension, the timing, it was all too convenient. Detectives claimed they had evidence, but nobody ever saw it. What they did have was a blurry video of someone in a hoodie near Sizzo's car. And apparently, D4vd's phone pinged a nearby tower around the time of the murder. That was enough for the feds to move. But here's the twist: D4vd had an alibi. He wasn't even on that side of town at the time. The problem? The one person who could vouch for him disappeared. Her name was Jade. A quiet, behind-the-scenes type. Not a clout chaser, not a groupie. She worked as a sound tech and had been helping D4vd record a demo the night Sesso was killed. She even posted a story that night from his home studio. But as soon as D4vd got locked up, Jade went ghost. Number socials, no calls, nothing. People started saying she was paid off. Others claimed she ran because she was scared. But one thing was clear without Jade: D4vd had no solid defense. In jail, D4vd was spiraling. Sources close to him said he stopped eating, barely slept, and refused visits. He couldn't believe how fast people flipped on him. In one of his phone calls, which later got leaked, you could hear the pain in his voice. He told his sister, "They really think I did this. Like I'd throw away everything over some rap beef." His sister, crying on the other end, promised they'd get to the truth. But at that point, hope was fading then, just when things looked darkest. A new name entered the picture: Rico Blaze. Now, if you don't know who Rico Blaze is, let's break it down. He's not a household name, but behind the scenes, he's known. A producer with a shady rep, always lurking in the background. He'd worked with Sesso before, and apparently he had beef with D4v dating back to last year. According to insiders, Rico felt D4vd stole one of his loops without credit, and things had been tense ever since. Some even say Rico was the one who instigated the fight between Sesso and D4vd at that infamous party. But here's where it gets crazy: Rico was spotted near the scene of the murder too. And nobody was talking about it. Why? Because Rico had friends in high places. One of the investigating officers was a known associate of Rico's cousin. When this info came to light through a leaked email thread, fans started putting pieces together. Hashtags like FreeD4vd and Investigate Rico Blaze started trending. It wasn't just fans anymore. Was bloggers, activists, even a few celebrities starting to question the case. And then, boom. Jade reappeared 3 months after D4vd's arrest. Jade resurfaced in a low-key podcast interview under an alias. She didn't say D4vd's name, but her story matched the timeline perfectly. She talked about being followed, harassed, and eventually threatened to stay quiet. "They said if I spoke up, I'd disappear too," she whispered, her voice shaking. When asked who they were, she didn't say, but she looked dead at the camera and said, "Y'all know who really did it." That interview went viral overnight. Fans were dissecting every second, every blink, every breath. The FBI couldn't ignore it any longer. They reopened the case quietly, without alerting the media. They started digging into Rico Blaze's phone records, his texts, his financials. And what they found flipped the entire case upside down. But before they could make a move, Rico vanished. Just like Jade, Rico went ghost. His socials went dark, his phone disconnected, and nobody had seen him in days. D4vd, still locked up, had no idea any of this was happening. But outside those prison walls, the tide was starting to turn. His sister dropped a cryptic post. They tried to bury the truth. Now it's growing roots. Things were heating up. Pressure was mounting. And behind closed doors, investigators were piecing together a whole different narrative. One where D4vd wasn't the aggressor. He was the target. Rico Blaze was gone, but the smoke he left behind was finally getting noticed. The FBI wasn't just watching now, they were digging. Quietly, secretly. And what they found buried deep in his cloud storage. Phone backups and hidden message threads had agents in full damage control mode. It turns out, Rico had been planning something long before Sesso's murder. Investigators uncovered a folder labeled Project Blackout, full of audio files, voicemails, and even screenshots. And one file was a voice note from Sesso himself. "Yo, if anything happens to me," Sesso said in a low, nervous voice, Check, Rico. He been moving funny, talking wild, trying to pit me against D4v. He wants us beefing. But I don't trust it. Fans went crazy when that leak hit the blogs. CISO had basically predicted his own death, and he called out Rico by name. Now, it wasn't just a theory, it was a full-on conspiracy unfolding in real time. And at the center of it all, D4vd sitting in a jail cell, completely unaware that the world outside was starting to believe him again. Meanwhile, D4vd's family was working overtime behind the scenes. His sister Nia hired a new legal team, one that didn't care about clout or fame. They were hungry, aggressive, and not afraid to go to war with the system. One of the lawyers, a young firebrand named Malik Ford, told the press in a brief statement, "We're about to expose a miscarriage of justice so big. It's going to shake the entire entertainment industry." And it did. Malik filed a motion demanding access to sealed evidence from the original investigation. And what he found inside those sealed files changed everything. Turns out, there were two witnesses who had seen someone matching Rico's description near CISO's car that night. Both gave statements. Both were ignored. One even admitted to being pressured to forget what she saw. When Malik brought this to the judge, things started moving fast. A hearing was scheduled, and for the first time in months, D4vd had hope. But then, just days before the hearing, Jade was attacked. Jade was attacked. She was found unconscious outside a gas station in Atlanta, bruised, shaken, but alive. She told paramedics she'd been followed for days and finally ambushed. "They don't want me to speak," she mumbled from the hospital bed. "They want me gone." Her attacker wasn't caught, but security footage showed a figure in a black hoodie, matching the same build as Rico Blaze. Fans were shook. The whole situation had gone from a criminal case to something straight out of a Netflix docuseries. People began connecting the dots, pulling up old footage, old interviews. Someone even found a clip of Rico in a live stream from a year ago, casually saying, "Don't play with me, or you'll end up like CISO." Everyone thought he was joking back then. But now, it sounded like a confession hiding in plain sight. And through all of this, D4vd stayed silent. No social posts, no interviews, no rants, just silence. But it wasn't weakness, it was strategy. His team knew the FBI was watching everything. And while the internet was spinning in a frenzy, Malik was in the courtroom, lining up the next move. He filed for an emergency evidentiary hearing, pushing for the charges to be dropped based on new witness statements and the suppressed evidence. And the judge, she agreed. For the first time since his arrest, D4vd was brought into court without shackles. His hair was longer, face leaner, eyes heavier, but he stood tall. In the gallery, his family cried. Fans lined up outside the courthouse, holding posters, chanting "Free D4vd" like it was a concert. Emotions ran high. And then, boom. Jade walked in. The courtroom went dead silent. Nobody expected her to show, especially after the attack. But there she was, walking slow but steady, a neck brace on, determination in her eyes. When she took the stand, her voice cracked, but never broke. She told the court everything: how she was there with D4v the entire night, how she saw the missed calls from CISO, how D4vd never left the studio. And then she dropped the bomb. "I got a voicemail from Rico Blaze," she said. "He told me to disappear or he'd make me disappear." The room gasped. Even the judge leaned forward. Malik played the voicemail in court, and Rico's voice echoed through the speakers. "You don't want to be caught up in this. Keep your mouth shut. Disappear like the rest of M." That was it. The judge ordered a recess, and within 48 hours, all charges against D4vd were dropped. But this ain't no fairy tale ending, because the minute D4vd walked free, everything exploded. Paparazzi swarmed. Fans screamed. Haters backtracked. And D4v, he just looked numb. Cameras caught him hugging his sister, but his expression said it all. He was free, but forever changed. And while the world was celebrating his release, there was still one big question hanging in the air. Where was Rico Blaze? Authorities launched a full-on manhunt, issuing a warrant for his arrest. But Rico was nowhere to be found. His last known location was in Mexico, and sources say he had ties with some serious underworld figures. Rumors even swirled that he was being protected by people who didn't want this story getting out. Because it wasn't just about Cizo's death anymore, it was about a whole network of people willing to destroy. A rising star to cover their tracks, and just when people thought it couldn't get deeper. Malik revealed something that shook everyone. We believe D4vd was being watched months before the arrest, he said in a press conference. This wasn't just about Rico. This was about shutting down someone they couldn't control. He went on to describe how industry figures, jealous of D4vd's rise, were quietly funding Rico behind the scenes. Labels that D4vd had turned down. Execs who didn't like his independence. They saw him as a threat. And Rico? He was just the pawn. D4vd stayed quiet through most of it. He posted one message to his fans. Thank you for believing. I'm not the same, but I'm still here. It broke the internet. Celebrities who had distanced themselves started crawling back. Industry folks started posting throwbacks, pretending they never doubted him. But fans, they remembered. And they didn't let anyone forget who had turned their backs when it mattered most. And just when you think the smoke started clearing, another twist was waiting. One that would flip the entire game again. While the world was reeling from the reveal that Rico Blaze wasn't just a rogue producer, but a pawn in something bigger. Fans started doing what the internet does best, digging deeper. And what they found turned the story from crazy to completely unbelievable. Because behind Rico was a name no one expected, a name respected in the industry, a name whispered about in contracts but never spoken aloud in public. Travis Keys. Yeah, that Travis Keys. The legendary executive, often credited with discovering half of the new wave of artists dominating charts. He was the guy behind the guy. Always in the shadows, always pulling strings. He wasn't just a label exec. He was the kind of man who could make or break a career with a single call. And according to leaked emails and a few brave insiders, he had been watching D4vd for over a year. Not because he believed in him, but because he wanted him gone. Now, here's where it gets cold-blooded. Back when D4vd first blew up with that viral hit, he was offered a multi-million-dollar deal from Travis's label. The kind of deal young artists dream about. But D4v turned it down. Not politely either. He called the contract slave numbers and walked away. Even worse, he posted a now-deleted tweet clowning the deal, saying, "You're not gonna buy my soul with them discount racks?" Travis, a man known for having thin skin and a long memory, took that. Personal sources inside the label say that's when the plan was set in motion first. D4v got blackballed quietly. Producers stopped replying. Playlist placements dried up. Brand deals disappeared. But the fans kept writing for him, and his streaming numbers refused to drop. That's when Travis allegedly sent Rico in. Not just to stir up drama, but to destroy D4vd from the inside. Rico was paid to infiltrate his circle, create tension, and then trigger the chain of events. That would lead to Cizo's death. The plan worked, almost, but what Travis didn't count on was Jade. That one night, that one alibi, that one woman who refused to stay silent. She cracked the whole thing open. And now, with Rico on the run and the FBI pulling receipts, Travis's Keys was next in the hot seat. Except Travis had lawyers. Serious ones. He denied everything. held a press conference smiling in his designer shades, saying, "I have no involvement in any criminal activity. I wish D4vd the best," but the tone didn't match the words. Fans weren't buying it. And then, the final blow hit an anonymous whistleblower and ex-label assistant leaked over 40 pages of documents, showing cash transfers from one of Travis's shell companies to Rico Blaze in the weeks leading up to Cizo's murder. Not only that, but there were memos detailing plans to monitor D4vd's social media, plant stories in the blogs, and use industry contacts to isolate him. One memo literally said, "Neutralize the threat. Remove public support. Crash his brand." Game over. The internet exploded. Hashtags like "Arrest Travis's Keys" and "Justice for D4v" took over trending pages. Celebrities who had worked with Travis started unfollowing him. Artists came out the woodwork, saying they had similar experiences contracts with hidden clauses. Threats when they tried to leave. Mysterious legal issues popping up when they spoke out. Suddenly, it wasn't just about D4vd, it was about an entire generation of artists being controlled and crushed behind closed doors. But in the middle of the storm, D4v still hadn't spoken. Not fully. He was seen leaving the courthouse with Malik and his sister. Face half covered, no cameras allowed at his request. But fans caught a video of him hugging Jade outside the hospital, whispering, "Thank you for saving my life." That moment went viral. And for the first time, people started to really understand this wasn't just a rap beef. It was a man fighting for his name, his freedom, his entire existence. But the story wasn't done yet, because Rico Blaze was still missing. And people were starting to think, maybe he wasn't running. Maybe he was hidden. Conspiracy theories took over. One fan claimed Rico was spotted in Panama under a fake name. Another said he was in Arizona at a safe house owned by Travis. One particularly viral theory said Rico was already dead, taken out by the same people who paid him to keep him silent. Malik wouldn't confirm or deny anything. "All I can say," he told reporters, "is the truth has not fully come out. Not yet." Then came the footage. A hacker group known as Ghost Lens dropped a 7-minute video montage titled "The Setup." It featured surveillance clips from the night of the murder, unseen phone videos, audio from Jade's hard drive, and a voice recording that shook everybody to their core. In the recording, Rico is on the phone, yelling at someone. "He ain't fooled yet. You said he'd snap by now. He ain't even flinched." And then the other voice says, "Clear as day, keep the pressure. We just need one mistake." Travis wants it done by the end of the week. That was it. The voice matched Travis's keys, and just like that, the feds moved in. Just like that, the feds moved in. October 1st, 5:13 a.m. Travis Keys was arrested at his home in Beverly Hills. Helicopters hovered overhead. Agents swarmed in. He came out in a robe, barefoot, smirking like it was just another Monday. But nobody was laughing. Especially not D4v, who watched the whole thing on the news from a private location. A source close to him said he didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He just said, "Took them long enough." Within hours of Travis's arrest, new witnesses came forward. Label interns, ex-managers, Tets, a disgruntled assistant all painting the same picture. An empire built on fear, control, and silence. But D4v, he became the symbol of resistance. Music outlets started calling it the fall of the puppet masters. Young artists who once stayed quiet were now speaking out. Petitions were launched. Contracts were exposed. Even mainstream media started asking hard questions. How many others were framed? How many careers were crushed before they even started? But for D4vd, the damage was already done. His name was cleared. Yes, but his trust. Broken, his friendships. Ruined, and the trauma. Still fresh. He posted one story, no caption, just a clip of him back in the studio. Headphones on, eyes closed, humming to himself. The fans flooded the comments. He's back. They couldn't kill the real. He survived the setup, but behind that comeback was still a shadow. Because someone, somewhere, still knew where Rico Blaze was. And until he's found, this story isn't over. The world was watching now. What started as a tragic arrest of a rising star had unraveled into a full-blown industry scandal with names, receipts, and a whole generation of artists demanding justice. Travis's Keys was behind bars awaiting trial, his empire crumbling. Fans called it the beginning of the end for the old guard. And at the center of the storm, D4vd, the artist they tried to erase. But even though his name had been cleared, the damage couldn't be undone. His mom told a local news station, tears in her eyes, "They didn't just lock up my son. They tried to break his spirit." That kind of pain doesn't leave easy. She was right. D4vd had been quiet since the arrest of Travis. No interviews. No Tello live streams. Just silence. The kind of silence that says everything without saying a word. But behind the scenes, his team was working carefully. There was talk of a documentary, a 2-part album, a sit-down with a major outlet. But D4v wasn't rushing it. This wasn't about content. It was about healing. Then, out of nowhere, Rico Blaze reappeared. He was caught in Colombia. Not by the feds, but by a local task force tipped off by Interpol. Turns out, Rico had been hiding under a fake name, using forged passports and moving between safe houses paid for in crypto. When they caught him, he had 2 phones, 6 fake IDs, and a suitcase full of burner SIM cards. And when the agents finally got him to speak, he cracked. Rico admitted to everything in a 3-hour recorded confession. He laid it all out, how he was recruited by Travis Keys, how he was promised a label imprint and $500,000 to ruin D4vd's reputation. He detailed how Cizo was never meant to die, just be scared into disappearing. "Things got out of hand," Rico said. "I wasn't supposed to pull the trigger, but I panicked. And once I did, they told me to finish the job." They said D4vd was the real target, not Cizo. When the confession leaked, the internet broke. Fans cried. Influencers screamed. Former haters deleted tweets. People started reposting D4vds. Old music with captions like, "We didn't deserve him far, and he was telling us the truth the whole time." And while the streets celebrated, while Rico was extradited and added to the case against Travis, there was only one thing people wanted now, for VD's voice, and finally, he spoke. It wasn't flashy. No big announcement. No pre-roll. Just a late-night drop. A video posted to his page titled, "Still Here." It opened with a shot of him sitting alone in an empty studio, a dim light hanging overhead. No chains. No drip. Just him. Raw, "I've been gone. Not just from the world. From myself," he began. His voice was calm, almost too calm. "I watched everything I built get ripped away. Not because I failed, but because I told the wrong people no." He paused, took a deep breath. "They wanted me to crash. They wanted me to fold. And for a while, teat, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I was broken. But y'all didn't let me stay there. Y'all kept believing. And now, I'm still here." He went on to talk about the pain, the fear, the anger. How every day inside felt like a year. How it messed with his head to see people he called brothers turn their backs. "I had folks in my circle who knew I was innocent and still ghosted. For clout. For safety. I forgive them, but I'll never forget." Then he turned to Jade. "You saved me," he said, looking directly at the camera. "They tried to shut you up, and you still spoke. That's real." I owe you my life. The video ended with a clip of a new song playing faintly in the background. No title, just a few haunting lyrics. They tried to bury me alive, but I grew roots beneath the lies. Now I rise. It was powerful, and it hit different. Overnight, streams of his old catalog skyrocketed. Fans flooded the comments with broken heart emojis, and he's back, FR. Celebrities who once stayed silent posted long apologies. Influencers made think pieces. Podcasts debated every second of the video. But through it all, D4vd stayed grounded. No arrogance. No revenge tour. Just quiet resilience. And then, the final twist, a leaked email thread between Travis and another exec at a competing label revealed that D4vd wasn't the only artist targeted. He was just the first to survive it. There was an entire list of young, independent artists flagged as liabilities for turning down exploitative deals. Names we know. Some of them went quiet. Some disappeared completely. Fans started revisiting cases, arrests, accusations, canceled rollouts, and realizing how deep the manipulation really went. This wasn't just D4vd's story anymore. It was a movement, and that's when something magical happened. One by one, artists started reaching out. Real ones. The ones who had been scared to speak before. They linked up behind closed doors, formed a coalition. Lawyers, financial advisors, independent publicists, artists helping artists. And at the center of it all, D4v, not as a leader, not as a brand, but as proof that you can survive the machine. Now let's be clear, he's not the same. The pain is still there. The trust issues, the trauma, but he's rebuilding, slowly, carefully. And this time, on his terms, he announced a return show one night only. Intimate venue, no sponsors, no flashy promo, just a simple post for the day ones. The believers. Let's finish what they tried to kill. Tickets sold out in minutes. And on that night, when the lights went down and D4vd stepped on that stage, there was no smoke, no pyrotechnics, no backup dancers. Just him and a mic. And the crowd. They didn't scream. They just listened, fully, completely. Like it wasn't a concert, but a resurrection. His first words were, simple. They framed me, but y'all freed me. And just like that, he sang, the crowd cried. Security cried. Even his mom in the front row wiped her eyes. Because in that moment, the story came full circle. Not tied up with a bow. Not a perfect ending. But real, raw, alive. And that's how the story ends. For now, because while Travis awaits trial, while Rico prepares to testify, while the industry scrambles to do damage control, D4v is no longer just an artist. He's a survivor, a symbol, a storm they couldn't silence. And D's just getting started. So now you know. From being framed for murder, to exposing one of the darkest industry conspiracies we've ever seen, to reclaiming his name and inspiring a movement, D4vd's story is one for the books. But even now, questions still remain. Will Rico Blaze testify in open court? Will Travis's keys really face justice, or will he buy his way out? How deep does this list of targeted artists go? And most importantly, how many others are still out there, silenced, waiting for their truth to come out? This wasn't just about one man being framed. This was about control, manipulation, fear. But D4vd broke that cycle. Not because he had the most power, but because he refused to break. And now, the industry is shaking. People are waking up, and those who once moved in shadows are finally being dragged into the light. But we gotta ask you, what do you think? Was this all a setup from the jump? Did Travis act alone, or is there a bigger system behind him? Do Do you think D4vd should forgive and move on? Or go full savage and expose everyone? Let us know in the comments right now. We want to hear what the real ones think. Hit that like button if you stood with D4vd from the beginning. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because trust me, this story ain't over. And if you've ever felt unheard, silenced, or underestimated, remember this. They tried to bury him, but he became the seed. And now he's blooming louder than ever. Stay tuned. This was Candidly Cassie X Say Cheese TV style, real stories. Real drama, real truth. We out. Real drama, real truth. We out.